Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations, a podcast that teaches you how to create a clutter-free, functional and simply happy life. I'm Narelle King, a professional organiser who supports families with practical steps to simplify their lives and create a more organised home. I'm passionate about supporting neurodivergent families and individuals like myself. Every fortnight, I also share guest conversations with experts passionate about the future of our home, health and the planet, which will provide you with actionable takeaways to create a more organised and happy life. Many of you are familiar with the concept of big T trauma, but small T trauma can often be overlooked. Maybe you were criticised for being too much, too loud, too clumsy, or too needy. Your emotional needs weren't being met and maybe not understood. Today on the podcast, I have with me Lavinia Brown, trauma-informed psychodynamic coach from the Inner Child Healing Expert. We've been online friends through Instagram since 2017 at the beginning of both of our businesses. She today shares how unprocessed trauma from the past affects your parenting and relationships. She helps to recognize and heal unprocessed small T trauma to create open communication for harmony in the home. This conversation is a video recording that you can watch on YouTube. Let's jump into this Simply Happy guest conversation. Today on Simply Happy Conversations, I'm talking with Lavinia Brown, a trauma-informed psychodynamic coach, and her business is the Inner Child Healing Expert. She's going to help you recognize unprocessed trauma from the past, and she's also going to help us understand the relationship between conscious parenting and relationships and creating harmony in our home. Welcome, Lavinia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, it's great. It's fine. Lovely to actually be able to talk to you face to face.
It's been years, right?
I know.
Years.
Yeah. Years of following each other on social media and communicating. So it's so lovely to be able to see you in person. So maybe to start off by sharing how, if you were a Barbie doll, what accessories would you come with?
Do you know, that was such an interesting question that I actually took it to supper. I've got 3 tweens now, and I was like, what would you say? What would you say? We had a nice conversation about what that meant for them. I was a bit flummoxed by it because I'm like, I don't know. But I think what inspired by my children, my nose ring here, which they said they couldn't even see anymore because I've had it for so long. But the reason behind that is because that kind of signifies my more hippie, spiritual, yoga kind of side. And then I've got quite a nice handbag. I do like my, nice posh accessories as well. So then that's like my Bobo side. I've got both, and I think you were following me when I was called Bobo Mama.
Yeah,
so
you were.
The 2
that's
different
right.
sides of me. Yeah, the kind of more hippie side and the more, bohemian, accessory, fashion-led type person. I fall between the 2 camps.
If I was to come over to England and be a professional organizer in your home, what area would you like help with?
My kids' rooms. Because I'm actually really, really organised. My friend said, we've just moved into this house literally 3 days ago and I've already got it all sorted out. And she was like, that. I sent her a photo of our hanging rail because it's a temporary accommodation. She was like, oh my God, that's what I love about you. You're like Olympic standard organised, because I am. I like things to be away, neat, tidy, and that makes me feel calm, which we can talk about later is actually, you could say is a sign of trauma. I'm a little bit OCD, to be honest. I like things really neat and really tidy. But the kids, no, that I find really overwhelming because it's a complete mess. So my kids' rooms.
And they're probably at that age, are they too, where they're not going to listen to you. Whereas if someone else came into the picture.
Don't care. Yeah. And also with I'm a bit of a hoarder. So I think I would need your help to help me let go of stuff that, I've still got projects from when I was 7 that I've kept. I just can't throw it away because I feel the effort. When I look at them, I feel the effort that went into them. I remember how much love and time went into them. So to put them in the bin, I just can't do it. But if I had someone else telling me, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Or,
gentler than that. So maybe coming up with some other ideas how to do it.
But
Yeah,
hoarding.
so it's like the memories. So it's more memories that you're holding on to. Yeah.
Or
interesting
memories of who I was, and I don't want to let her down, which again, I suppose is coming back to what I do, the inner child. Yeah. I want to give her that care and support that she didn't necessarily get all the time. So to throw her stuff away feels like I'm dismissing her and not giving her what she needs, which it isn't, obviously. It's just a piece of paper. But yeah, in my mind, it's still linked to that person. So and that is definitely what I would like help with.
Interesting that it's making me think of some of my other clients, and the reason that they may be holding on is also around that child, inner child as well. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's so much more to it than just making your pantry look so pretty.
Yeah.
It's all, So what strengths do you think you bring to your business, like over the years? Because you've also changed and gone from sort of that yoga, boho to more of the inner child healing as well, and the trauma focus.
Yeah, to be honest, I was always doing that, but I didn't market it as that because I felt like, oh no, trauma, a bit, scary word. Everyone's going to not want to work with me anymore. So I wasn't marketing as such. And then I got a bit more confident about it because I realized this is ridiculous. This is what I do. I might as well just embrace it and put myself out there. So yeah, for me, this is the root of everything. It really is the lens through which you live life. That's, the way that you were brought up, if you think about your parents being your introduction to the world, because of course they are. You don't meet anyone else, or you don't have that much influence from many other people for a long time, then of course it makes sense that their beliefs, their values, their fears, their anxieties are what you inherit. And that's what you learn about. Well, that's what you learn to see is the way you are, the way you interact with other people, and the way you interact with the world. So I think if there's anything that you're not happy with, or you're reacting in ways that you're not happy with, or that don't feel in alignment, or removing fears, anxieties, triggers, it's always useful to go back to your past first, because there's often a root cause there.
Yeah. Interesting. Even just before in our first conversation, we went back and it was like stopped and went back and went, oh, it could be from childhood again, isn't it? That looking at that with a different lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what strengths do you think you bring to the work that you do with the mamas you work with?
I think I'm very honest. And I see that as a strength because my vulnerability, I think, makes me approachable. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect mum. I'm not a perfect partner. I'm not a perfect person in any way. I still shout at my kids. I still get annoyed, all of it. But if I can just give the tools that I have, I'm just a few steps ahead of my clients, then I think that makes me more approachable. People understand that there's no judgment with me. I totally understand where someone is coming from because I've probably done it before. So my honesty, I would say. And kind of linked to that, I'm not afraid to go really deep because I've had to go really deep with myself. I was in a pretty dark place when I started this work, and that's why I got led to it. So not being afraid, I guess then that means my strength. I'm very strong. I don't shy away from difficult topics, and I will always hold my clients through whatever they're going through. I'm not scared of that. And I do think that many therapists out there, however good, haven't necessarily had that trauma experience, either themselves or working with it, to go that deep. So I do think that that's a skill that is lacking in many therapists because they haven't experienced it themselves. So they can't then take you to the depth that you need to go in order to heal. Yeah,
lived experience is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, and really I know that's important for you because you also changed. Yeah,
exactly. Sort of from that coaching online to now in person, which I absolutely love. I'd much rather, be in person than working online. Yeah, it makes such a difference. So what, if we were looking at unprocessed trauma from the past, what would it be like? How would we recognize this?
I get asked this quite a lot, and it's a really good question because how would you know? Most people are like, oh, no, my childhood was fine. I had a pony, or we went on foreign holidays, or we always had nice food on the table. I was very loved. So it's really important to distinguish between big T trauma and small t trauma. What we're talking about here is attachment trauma, small t trauma. It can also be called developmental trauma. So we're looking at feeling misunderstood, feeling like your needs and wants and fears maybe weren't acceptable or were deemed inconvenient, or big feelings weren't allowed. So all of these kind of feelings of not being able to be fully yourself and not feeling unconditionally loved when you were being yourself. So maybe being criticized for being too needy, too dramatic, too loud, too aggressive, too clumsy, too timid, too whatever it was, it doesn't matter, too sensitive. Many of us got these labels, not because we were necessarily objectively these things, but because these things brought up uncomfortable feelings in our parents, and because they didn't necessarily have the tools to handle that themselves, they shut it down. So they sent us to our room, or they told us off, or they said that's not what we do in this household. So this creates issues, and this is trauma. So you can have felt very loved in your childhood. You can have had a very privileged childhood. It's not about material wealth in any way. It's about, I guess, a mismatch emotionally. Your parents weren't able, couldn't or wouldn't meet your emotional needs in the way that you needed, which frankly is most of our parents, because most of them didn't have the tools. They didn't have the emotional maturity. We are learning that now. So we are, to a certain degree, passing on attachment trauma to our children, but we put in the repair. It's a thing now. We are responsible for our actions. We are responsible for the way that our actions and behavior affect our children. So it's not something to be scared of. That's my first point. There's no shame around it. Most of us have got it, and our children to a certain degree will inherit some of it, but we can work with it. So how do you know if you've got it? Well, most people have got it to a lesser or greater degree, but triggers are a really good signpost. So if you find that you're reacting disproportionately to something that your child has said or done, or your partner has said or done, or to someone's tone of voice, so you're getting more angry or more sad or more ashamed, and it feels often very physical, very kind of visceral, sometimes even out of control, this reaction, then you know that there's probably a wound underneath that, which is to do with childhood. So these feelings that you're experiencing now in the present are actually just old stuck feelings that are still in your body, that are being stirred up by whatever it is in the present that is reminding you of an experience that you went through that hasn't yet been processed because you were too little. You didn't know how to process these big feelings of fear, or anxiety, or shame, or powerlessness, or anger, whatever they were. So it's recognizing these disproportionate reactions and then being a bit of a detective, saying to yourself, well, do I remember feeling this way? The same visceral sensation as a child or as a teenager? What experience might there be underneath this that is being reactivated? Then going back there, and ideally you would do this with support, but basically you're going to feel these original feelings that got stuck with a safe other, or the way I do it is through the inner parent, which is an imaginary, unconditionally loving presence. So does that make sense?
It sounds amazing. And I know you did a podcast recently with it, and I loved it. Can you share an example? It doesn't have to be you. It might be someone else, but an example, because I know in that episode you did a great example, and I think your husband did a great example as well. And for me, it was like, oh, that is perfect. And it made me think of examples myself then.
Yeah. So, I mean, a big one for me is anger. So we can also tie in trauma responses. So is your trauma go-to response fight or flight? Is it freeze? Is it fawn? So do you people please? Do you lash out because you feel like, you have to put on armor? Or do you kind of dissociate and need to leave the room? So that's quite a useful thing to know. Mine is fight. So I often have a disproportionate anger response. So let me think of one. I mean, I've got a kind of, see, here I am. I'm not talking to my inner child very kindly. I was about to say a silly one.
No,
you can't say silly because my inner, she's allowed to react however she wants. But I really hate like annoying noises or loud noises or too much noise. I really value my silence, which is why I'm hating sharing an office with my partner, because he's not making noise, but I can hear him tapping and I can hear just breathing. And part of me wants to go, oh my God, you weirdo. That's like, get over it. Like, it's some other people are allowed to breathe. But hearing people eat, oh my God, hearing people chewing. And obviously I've got 3 tweens, so that's like daily. They don't care about manners. I'm always telling them to eat with their mouth shut, but that drives me insane. And part of me is really judging me for that, because I think I know it's disproportionate. I need to be able to deal with other people's noises, but in terms of the root cause, to be honest, I don't know what it is. I haven't worked on it fully, so I need to do the detective work on that. But I would imagine let me do it on myself. You see, I don't know. I feel very uncomfortable with noises. It makes me feel fearful underneath. So this is another thing we do. We go underneath the emotion. So my primary emotion is anger, but also underneath the anger, it's unsafety. I feel really uncomfortable in my body when I hear noises that I don't like. So I don't know. That's not a very helpful example, is it? Because I haven't worked on it. No, it
is, because I think you did share that example, because I related to it. I related to when you shared it and went, oh, that's exactly what happens to me. It's the noises in the morning. Noises. And when I get home and I've done exercise and I should be, mellow and chill. But if people start doing noises, multiple noises, and especially the chewing noise, it's like, yeah.
Actually, I think I've got what it is. I've just thought, because exactly like you, I came back from a really long walk. I had an amazing time. I was really appreciating the new nature of where we live. Came back and the fridge was open, beeping. God knows how long it had been open, because there was already kind of like frost on the back. And I went mental. I was like, the fridge is open. Why can't anyone shut the fridge? The milk's out. Why can't anyone? So this is my thing. Like, why can't anyone just tidy up after themselves? So like I said to you at the beginning, I'm very organized, and it really annoys me that other people can't be the same level of organized as me. So going back to the noise, I'm really conscious of any noise that I make. I try and be very respectful of, I guess I keep myself to myself. Maybe my family would disagree with me, but it's that level of effort I'm putting in to make myself quiet and respectful and do things properly, and no one else seems to be doing it. So that's the root cause. It's not about food. It's not about the noise. It's about the effort that I make with noise, with keeping myself together, with organizing, with being neat and tidy. So it's about my inner child feeling she's making a massive effort to keep herself contained. And this comes back to childhood, because I had to be a little doll, basically, for my parents. I had to perform, be nice, rise to the occasion, be charming, be well behaved. God help me if I wasn't. So I had to perform. I still do that now to a certain degree, and no one else is doing it. So the fridge open, the milk out, people putting cutlery in the sink. Put it in the dishwasher just right next to the sink.
Yes.
Like, how hard is it? And that's what goes through my head. How hard is it? How stupid are you that you can't be more basically thoughtful?
Which is what we were trained, to do, wasn't it? That is our upbringing. It's that change now, isn't it? Yeah.
And teenagers aren't thoughtful. They're in their own thing. That's the last thing they're going to be. But so thank you. You've helped me work that out. Now I need to go and feel the feelings. So the next stage of that would be, right, okay, when do I remember the worst example, the strongest example of having to be a certain way that didn't feel natural? So having to be thoughtful when I was a child. Children aren't thoughtful. They're in their own world. They're present with their own feelings. So when do I remember a time that I had to be thoughtful and I didn't want to be, and feel those feelings, that anger, that frustration, that powerlessness? And that will remove the original feeling that is getting stirred up every time someone leaves the fridge open.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
I need to go and do that today.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So what's the gap between doing that? You generally, like, do you encourage people when they've worked through the process to go and sit like that day or even a couple of days later? Or it's what sort of
Absolutely.
the process?
Yeah. So ideally, like I said, the way I do it is with the inner parent. So ideally you would have a connection with your inner parent or a therapist or a safe other, because it can be, I don't recommend that anyone goes to do some traumatic memory that's like an 8, 9 out of 10. That's, you know, too much to do on your own. But something like I've just described could be quite low. So for me, that's probably a 4 or 5. So then, yes, absolutely, you would go. Make sure you're not going to be disturbed. So that allows your inner child the safety that she needs to go as deep as she needs to go. Then you would literally sit there and put yourself back in a memory that you would have thought about earlier. So you're a 7-year-old, you're an 8-year-old. What happened? How did you feel? And you sit there and you recreate that memory with your inner parents. Your inner parent's there with you. And your inner parent is then co-regulating you through that experience that you had no one to co-regulate you before. So that's the key. The inner parent is providing that safe space for you to do something that ideally should have been taught to you as a child. But like I said, many of our parents couldn't co-regulate us. And we're struggling now because we're learning how to co-regulate ourselves whilst we're doing it for our children. So it's difficult. But the inner parent, who is this loving, patient, tolerant, unconditionally supportive person, she's holding the space for you. So you literally imagine her there with you as you feel these feelings, and the feelings go. It's not like it will take an hour or something. It won't. You're feeling old stuck feelings. They don't want to be in your body either. You're just going, you can go now. So you're feeling them and releasing them, letting your body feel them in whatever way your body needs to. And that's it. And the amazing thing is the next time someone does the same thing, it will still be annoying. I mean, I will always find the fridge being open annoying because shut the fucking fridge. I mean, how hard is it to shut the fridge? But there's not that visceral, disproportionate reaction anymore. It's just annoying.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important bit, is that when you talked about it in your podcast, that's the bit that I really connected with. It's that visceral reaction that you have. Yeah. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that example as well. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's good.
So as an expert then, helping people to become better parents and partners as well, could you provide us with some actionable takeaways that we could do at home with our family members?
Yeah, I mean,
around communication, probably. Yeah,
communication. I mean, I would actually take it back to doing the inner work, creating a relationship with an inner parent, because we didn't have a lot of the trauma. So again, I'm talking small t trauma. This is a good thing to kind of help you realize what it is again. We were often alone. Often we were alone with our big feelings. So we felt then helpless and powerless. And these big feelings took on a whole new level that they shouldn't necessarily have, or perhaps a level of shame as well if you were told off. So we want to get rid of these extra layers, and we want to realize that emotions are just energy. They're just passing through you. They're not ours. We don't want to cling on to them. So to do the work to create a relationship, a connection with this imaginary inner parent, I suggest to my clients that they do this at nighttime, to spend a couple of minutes every night before going to bed, because that's the time that you're relaxed, you're calm, your to-do list is on the side. And just imagine what it would have felt like to have this beautiful, loving, kind, supportive parent that you maybe didn't get when you were a child. Just connecting to someone that's there for you, who wants to hear about your day, who's saying that she's here, I'm here for you, you are safe. Really kind of emphasizing that you're not alone. Because I think that's the root of many of our disproportionate reactions, feeling overwhelmed because we're alone. And I know the inner parent doesn't exist, she's imaginary, but actually that doesn't matter. If you feel someone else is there, even if they're imaginary, it actually feels quite calming, and you've got someone on your team, you're not going through this challenge all by yourself, you're going to manage it because you're not on your own. That's really, really powerful. So to go back to communication, often we snap or we're irritable because we don't feel safe inside, or we feel overwhelmed. So if in those moments, which is super hard to do, which is why we're always just practicing. I'm practicing. I don't get this right all the time, definitely. So we're always practicing having that inner parent there. And that can often take our reactivity down a couple of pegs. And that's what's important. And also another good one actually is naming what you're feeling. It has the same effect. So rather than trying to put a brave face on something, so when you're saying communicating with your family, if you're pissed off or if you're anxious, if you're overwhelmed, say it. Don't say you're making me pissed off, because it's not them. It's not them making you. Nothing can make you feel anything. Just saying, I'm actually feeling quite frustrated right now. It's got nothing to do with you, but yeah, I just feel really frustrated. I might go and shout into a pillow, or I might go and do some star jumps or whatever, but just naming how you're feeling, not having to, again, like we said, perform for your family. And that just diffuses it a little bit, because you're giving yourself permission. You're saying it's okay to feel what you feel. You don't have to be positive. You don't have to be calm. You don't have to feel capable all the time. We're human beings. And when you name that, you're actually also role modeling to your kids that it's okay to feel these things. It's not taboo.
I think that is amazing. That is like the takeaway point of the whole time, is definitely it makes such a difference to kids when they can hear you name it. Even for me, teaching in a classroom, if I say someone asks me a question about they've read my face, do you not quite understand something? And it's like, no, I don't. They're like, like it's just makes you so much more human, doesn't it? Rather than,
absolutely.
I think when we were kids, what it was like. Yeah. I don't remember my mum or dad really being, definitely not saying they were anxious about anything or worried about anything. Just everything was okay.
Yeah.
And, then they'd sometimes
my mum would
blow
throw
up.
Things.
Exactly. Yeah, they would blow, but they would be like, I'm not angry. There's nothing wrong. Yeah. So it's interesting how
no
things
lead
have
up,
changed.
and then that leads to unpredictability. A lot of my clients hate unpredictability because they remember these, I'm saying violent, I don't necessarily mean physically, but violent mood swings. One minute it was fine, and the other minute they were being screamed at or hit, or they'd done something wrong. So leading up, giving children context so that they can understand their own build up of emotions. Because emotions do build up, don't they? And if we can name it when it's starting and do something ideally physical to help it release out of you, then that's really helpful. It will diffuse it.
Yeah, definitely, which is great. So if you were one thing that a listener could do to help them create harmony in their home, what would be something that you'd recommend?
Other than naming, I'm going to go left field, actually, because this is the other really big tool that I use, and not so many women know about it, which is crazy given how important it is. And that's cycle awareness, actually.
Oh, yes.
Being aware of your cycle, being aware of your hotspots, which usually is just before your period. So being aware that you are coming into a phase where you might be more irritable, more sensitive, more angry, need your own headspace more, and communicating that with everyone else so that everyone else understands it's not about them. Because this is the thing with children. Children think it's their fault. If there's a mood swing or someone's angry or whatever it is, children will usually take that on as their fault. So we want to be able to give children context for our feelings. And we're also giving context to ourselves. If we know that we're coming up to a phase where we're more irritable, angry, need more headspace, then what can we do to create that headspace, that quiet, that me time? If we do that and we look after our own needs, then we're no longer projecting it onto our family members unconsciously. So being aware of your cycle, where you are in your cycle and your typical emotions around that time, I think's really thoughtful.
Yes, definitely. That is a fantastic tip. And even making the family aware, if you are in the end of that and going towards perimenopause, I think that was huge for my kids to hear, and then to be a little bit more compassionate at times when, I would be just like, guys, I just don't know what's going on. I can't remember anything at the moment. My brain is like a sieve. So yeah, definitely that having that open communication. I can't tell you, cannot remember my family ever talking about that as a kid.
No, not at all. So like you said, I'm going through a hard time.
Yeah.
And everyone else can say when they're going through a hard time.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Honesty, openness, authenticity, something that most of us weren't allowed to be.
Yes. I'm so glad that we're learning a lot more and able to pass this on to our own kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll just screw them up in different ways.
Technology. So how can people connect with you and also share about the podcast as well?
Yeah. So our podcast is quite new. Episode 4 is coming out today, tomorrow.
Oh, it was out today. It was out today here in Australia.
Today? Oh, yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
You see, I don't know what day it is. So, yes. Thursday.
Ours is Thursday.
I don't even know what day.
It came up on mine today.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So anyway, 4 episodes. So yes, that's about, again, people wondering how their past might be affecting their present. We give you some pointers as to how it might be showing up in your relationship, in your parenting. So it's about parenting, it's about relationships, about always going back to the root cause. And obviously we give you examples from our own relationship and family life to help you heal your past too. So that's the podcast. That's called Becoming Untriggered. It's on Apple and Spotify.
And that's with your husband as well,
yes,
which is great. Yes.
That is with my partner. So a great one for the dads out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very honest. And yeah. I mean, actually,
I enjoyed it.
You
That's
don't
what I
know
liked.
this, but the last one, episode 3, I actually had to say to the person that edits it, can you just put this on hold now? Andrew, stop interrupting me. It's like, you keep interrupting me. And he was like, but you talk too much. I'm like, but I've got lots of points to make. So we had this like mini argument halfway through the episode. And then we're like, okay, please can you give me more space? I'll try and wrap it up quicker. And then we carried on. So it's really raw. It's really kind of live. This is what we're all going through. Yeah. And then obviously I've got my website, laviniabrown.com, and lots of free resources on Instagram and Facebook, which is at the inner child. You see, perimenopause.
I know, the inner child healing expert. I have to have it written down.
Oh my God. At the inner child healing expert. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll include all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time, Lavinia.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, then I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review. This helps others find it who are also looking for tips and organisational strategies to simplify their life and prioritise their health. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss future episodes. You can also connect with me over at simplyhappy.com.au. I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded as the traditional custodians of the land. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.